Apropos, the last one with all the names of the thinkers: Cowell, Hegel, what else was it? Steve Reich. So, Buckstopping identification of numbers, ratio, the resonant frequency, the wolf note, and all the rest. Now I'm going to demonstrate the basis of my theory. So typically we would think, look at all these knobs and jacks and cables. And, you know, there are papers, sheets, patch, charts, where there's just blank, like, diagram, where you might even get a representation of the image of the machine. And one is literally going in and writing values next to little pictures of knobs. It's like finding a needle in a haystack. It's impossible. And nevertheless, the formalization of electronic music has only primarily followed this route. Somehow you've got to keep track of your settings. You have presets. Every machine comes with presets. Settings. You scroll through a menu, through all the settings, and you select. And if after you set everything up the way you want, you pray that you know enough about the directory structure, or the way that the gear, the particular way that the gear saves its patches and its data, that you save it properly and that you're able to load it properly and that it all loads correctly and so on. Every electronic musician knows of these struggles by personal experience. I will tell a story. It's worth telling. In case you thought that it might not be worth telling and that I was just trying to piss you off. Well, it could be. In the 90s, I spent lots of time with Danny Zalonki. He's very much a mentor of mine. He's one of my teachers. He recorded under several names, such as Crank and Low Res. He released records on Mill Plateau and Phthalo Records, which of course is my label. Was, I don't know, I mumbled. Muz. It is my label. Phthalo Records is my label. I don't remember when the last release was. So, now, a real kind of scene, formed around Danny. He was kind of a guru for us. Because, I mean, we were young. We were like in our 20s. And we didn't have very much. It was me and Joe and Alan from Plug Research Records. And I met Joe and Al through Danny. So there was a local. He was friends with Joe and Al. His name is William Edward Duran III. And he's a real guru himself. He's our age, though. Last time I saw William was at Phthalocyanine night. Phthalocyanine night was like 2013, maybe, in Los Angeles. And that's already 13 years ago. Jesus Lord. And I sat down with him and we talked for 20 minutes. And I think at that time, the last time that I had seen him may very well have been 13 years prior. But anyway, in the mid-90s, Danny and I, for several years, we were working on this material that ultimately came out on Tommy Dennis's AIM Records. That's in Belgium. The record is called MVFS. And so Danny had some modular gear. He had Surge modular stuff, custom Surge modular, custom bespoke. He ordered a system from Surge, and then went up to the Bay Area, and he said he had to buy a plane seat for it, so he was sitting next to a modular synth on the way back home. So Danny had a few esoteric things. Boy, at that time for us, because there was no such thing as Eurorack at that time. So modular synths were, that was something you only literally found in a university department. Or, university department or professional studios, of course. So it was probably a Saturday night, and in the middle of the night, and Danny and I were working on this track, and we had a room full of machines, and we're fine-tuning knobs for several hours, and we get something situated. And there was an MS-20, a Korg MS-20, which this isn't the same unit, but that is a Korg MS-20 sitting on that milk crate right there. Not the same one, but that was the synth. And something was happening. Now, if you, for those of you who know the MS-20, it is a unique kind of a beast. The filter in that thing is indescribable. It is, I don't know what to say about it, other than it is fucking big. The resonant filter, the low-pass filter. So, something was happening, and William came over, and we were taking a break, and he came in the studio, and at one point, he's just innocently standing there, and the MS-20 is right there. And he just kind of innocently taps one of the keys like that. And the sound changes. And like a very significant part of what was happening totally changes. Oh, Danny just lost his mind. He started screaming at William. What the fuck are you doing? You go into a studio and you know better than to touch the gear? What the fuck do you know about what's happening right now? You think we can get that back? That's the anecdote. What the fuck did you do? Do you think we can get that back? You couldn't get it back. And the guilt. Oh my God, the guilt. He was, I hope he's made his peace with God about that one, because he felt for a minute there he was really shaken up, because he knew he fucked up. Because this man, William, he is as serious of a producer as you can meet. And he takes it seriously. The guy's a scientist. I mean, he's in there with his lab equipment, like he's dialing in for precision. So for him to just press a key, it's an especially bad look. So now you know, if you're ever in a music studio, do not touch anything. Because you don't know, even if it's an acoustic instrument sitting there, it may be sitting there in a particular position for some reason. They might be doing something with that instrument, like miking it or something, and it has to be in that position. If you're in a music studio, you're not allowed to touch anything, literally. This is not a digression either. It's an illustration of the notion of settings. That in electronic music, one hopes to save one's settings. If you're a producer and you're listening to this, I think you're laughing right now. You have to be laughing because you have experience with this. God damn it. Wait, we saved that. Didn't we save that? No, that was a different... Oh, what? Wait a second. So then you got to troubleshoot. Reverse engineer? How'd we get here? When did you make that decision? What was the last decision we made? So this basic sense in my history of electronic music, the idea that you've got, I have no idea how many machines I have, how much room it takes. It is a formidable kind of small warehouse of gear that I have. And, just getting through it all, just testing it for functionality is like a multi-month process. And the idea that one might write compositions for the ages and formalize them and render them so that they're reproducible by ensembles in the future. The idea of the existence of all the limitless electronic music machines that already exist, have existed for some decades now, and are being produced at a breakneck pace, faster and faster. If you look at the new releases page at Sweetwater Sound. What are they called? It's a big music equipment reseller called Sweetwater Sound. Or go like to perfectcircuit.com, new releases. Look at all the machines coming out. You know, it didn't used to be that way. I mean, once upon a time, you learned an instrument, and that was just your instrument. I mean, Thelonious Monk played piano. Charlie Parker played alto sax. I mean, think about it. There's multi-instrumentalists, and those are looked at as anomalous. You know, like people like Roland Kirk played multiple instruments at the same time. So Rahsaan Roland Kirk would stand there with like 5 saxophones all working at the same time. So music theoretic formalization, the ability to recall a particular kind of performance scene, which in philosophy we might call that a Weltanschauung, a worldview. You know, a basis of settings to be foundational from which to build. Because when one always feels like, well, tabula rasa, where is the tabula rasa in my system? There is a very good feeling I especially quite like, you know, after these things all become full of patch cables or just coming out, it becomes so absurd. It looks absurd, it feels absurd, because in order to get in there, I mean, you have it's like you're in a jungle. You can't see any of the knob names. You can't see any of the jacks. Your fingers are all moving around in order, and you might yank something out of place. All kinds of things can change and go wrong. But how do you achieve any complexity then, if complexity is always going to present itself as a kind of jungle obstacle? And that's always what I find in programming or whatever. I mean, I'm a shit programmer. I can't even say that I'm a programmer at all. Is that somehow things become unwieldy too fast. And limits present themselves in terms of a certain kind of technical unwieldiness. That Thelonious Monk will never have to worry about, because the Weltanschauung of Thelonious Monk, qua piano, remains fixed. So there are a number of reasons why one would want electronic music to be regulable along such lines, that instruments truly could be isolated and written for. You know, one hears of no such thing as quartet for Oberheim expander. Why not? You know, it's always been very puzzling to me, you know, why Why is there such a lack of formalization amidst such powerful equipment? Rumor had it that once upon a time at the Berklee School of Music in Boston, all the workstations, each workstation for whatever studio production or electronic music, had its own Oberheim expander. That's crazy. I mean, Oberheim expander is a legendary unit. Its sound is unparalleled in terms of beauty. And yet it doesn't seem to have made its way into academia. I've never seen an Oberheim expander in a academic context. Part of it is that there's so many machines out there. It's just, and it is esoteric knowledge. I mean, knowledge about machines, really, it just comes through. It's a kind of folk knowledge. And I guess it just doesn't, well, it's probably, there's a lot more of what I'm talking about that's already been formalized. Probably a lot more than I realize. I'm sure that's true too. I mean, for all I know, there are quartet for Oberheim expander. However, through my consideration of Trent Gill and the Just Friends module, that's this one, which gives one a series of harmonics at any given tonic frequency, and one finds oscillation of partials, of course, at any tonic frequency, and those are always going to be different because of the rational structure. As you sweep through tonic frequencies, at every fixed point along the tonic frequency range, every single related partial, including, so partials are in the thousands, right? But harmonics are very few. I mean, harmonic is integer multiples of the tonic. So as you sweep along the tonic range, you're basically getting a modulation of partials in real time, that all the partials are different at every single fixed point along the tonic range. Now, this Just Friends, that's essentially what its Weltanschauung gives you a exposure to, encounter with. One encounters the full spectrum as a continuous looping cycle at any fixed tonic. So one actually sees this row. These are the harmonics, 1 through 5. One notices, and I really take so much inspiration from the Mannequin's Whimsical Raps Trent Gill system, is that there are only a few knobs and only a few jacks. But things are designed and structured in such a way as to mysteriously or not find these knobs and jacks always to be in curious immediate proximity to some resonant frequency or other. The result is you can pretty much tweak any knob at any point and something interesting happens. And so I've been using that gear, the Mannequin's Whimsical Wraps gear. It's for a number of years now. I mean, it's got to be already 5 years or something. And the Just Friends, well, it's all very intuitive, but the Just Friends unit especially is like maybe arguably the most intuitive piece of electronic music equipment I've ever used. I mean, it just kind of sets a new standard. A new standard both for theoretical transparency as well as immediate practical usability and usefulness. It's just immediately intuitive. Why? You know, that's obviously just the natural way my mind works, is that, you know, I get mystified by things. Certain things really impress the living daylights out of me, and I become fascinated deeper and deeper, and then I start contemplating it, and I really kind of tear the cover off the ball in terms of conceptual inquiry. And so my considerations about the Whimsical Wraps gear have led me toward these considerations about doubleness and ratio, and about the resonant frequency in general being a kind of mysterious guidepost. We all know the experience of, you know, you plug something in, like it would happen to me with this one about 3 weeks ago. This is a drum unit. I plugged something in, and I'm turning the knob back and forth. Well, nothing's happening. Okay, just let's sit with this idea for a second. I'm turning the knob. I don't hear anything happening. Okay, what are we listening for? What should be happening? Oh, well, I don't even hear a sound. Okay, well, let's say that there is a sound. Let's say that the drum unit triggers. Yeah, but you know, that drum doesn't sound like that usually. You know, toms are more mid-range frequencies, and that's more like just this bump. That doesn't sound like a tom. So, and I'm turning the knob, nothing's happening, say. So what's missing? What's supposed to happen? Well, the first thing that one would think, if one turns a knob and one is listening for something, one would expect to hear a corresponding change. A change toward what? Consider the example of a resonant low-pass filter. One is always converging toward the resonant frequency, and one is even provided, quite often, in fact, probably all the time, a parameter called resonance, whereby one can boost and artificially create a resonant frequency. In any context, all you have to do is crank the resonance knob and it appears. Because there's always, all you have to do is crank I think it's the highest frequency or the higher frequencies of the thing, extra, and you get the ringing of resonance. So that should tell us something also about the relationship between resonant frequency and amplitude. Because if you have a loop that's doubling, say it's Steve Reich, it's gonna rain. It's the phrase, it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain, it's gonna rain, and then you double that. And every time you get a repetition, you move one of them a nanosecond forward. But you can do it much more easily. How? You set up two tape loops and you change the playback speed of one of them. So that's oscillation. That's cyclicality. So we can see that we're actually testing and finding a resonant frequency based on experiments between always one cycle against another that are being performed simultaneously. The resonant frequency, the beating, as we call it, is always apparent as something that we converge toward or deviate from. So my theory, in its very kind of nascent stages right now, it's just little more than a few intuitions that I've been trying to describe, combined with some demonstrations, is that I find that as with modular equipment, as soon as you are in the position where you're turning a knob and you say, nothing's happening, you have to stop and you have to start going backward. Because it means that you've lost your immediate sense of the relevant frequency, or the resonant frequency is the relevant frequency. But as long as one steps through each additional sound, always making sure that sound has some reference to a resonant frequency, what seems to happen is that music compositions fall out of this structure as derivative, as a result, not as a structuring principle. So where in the traditional sense, we keep track of all our settings, we seem to build up to structures of complexity. In my approach, maybe it's the inverse approach. I don't know. I have to think more about it. I'm primarily only just focusing on the resonant frequency, and I'm not paying attention to anything else that's happening. And as long as I can keep track of the relation of each addition in the system back to some resonant frequency, interesting arrangements seem to follow as corollary. So, okay, now I'm going to do the demonstration, because I've already, I talked for 35 minutes. So I'll do the demonstration in the next video. Dimitri, how many of these prologues are you going to give? I don't know. I'm a philosopher, remember?